to AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling, presented by Upper Deck. Collect your favorite wrestlers in 2024 Upper Deck AEW and start your trading card collection today. Unwrap autograph, memorabilia, and premium tech inserts, and visit upperdeck.com to learn more. I'm Will Washington, and I'm, of course, joined, as always, by the one and only referee, Aubrey Edwards.
I'm like trying to take a drink of my coffee, and I'm like, am I going to have to say my name? How is he going to do this intro here? I don't actually know. I'm just going to spit up coffee all over my camera. It's great.
That's all right. But we're not alone here. We're never alone here on AEW Unrestricted. I guess sometimes we are. But today, we are actually joined by one of my favorite people in AEW. She is, I almost used her real name and then I decided not to, but we all know her as a performer in All Elite Wrestling as the one and only Penelope Ford. Penelope Ford, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hello. I was like, am I going to slip on real names too?
I mean, look, it's one of those things. I use your real name so often that people look at me and they go, wait, who? And I'm like,
he does the same thing with me. And people are like, wait, who are you? And I'm like, oh, yeah.
Everyone does the same thing when I say your name.
Right. Yeah.
But,
So,
I mean, I think I introduce myself all the time as Olivia.
Right. I do the same thing. I'm like, hi, I'm Brittany. And people are like, wait, what? Who are you? And I'm like, yeah, no, I've been her for 38 years. Thank you, though.
Yes.
Right.
But otherwise, we have just recently, in the last few months, gotten to see Penelope Ford back on television, back on AEW. I want to start by talking about the journey coming back, being a part of the roster again and being back on TV.
Oh, finally, right? Finally back. 2 years, too long.
Quite a long time.
It was quite a long time. And let's start by talking about the surgery and the because the injury was really more of a buildup of injuries, correct?
I suppose. I guess it does just after a while, and maybe doing the splits all the time.
Yeah.
My hip was like, no more. To the point where I was bending over to tie my shoes, and then I'd get like this weird twinge down my leg, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, no, that's normally not a good sign.
Yeah. And then the worst part about when you have to have hip surgery, they don't want to perform the surgery right away. And
is it like an ACL surgery where they make you do rehab for a long time beforehand?
Yes. They made me do physical therapy for a whole year.
What?
I remember that. Yeah, you were, because you were at TV, despite not being on TV, you were at TV quite a bit until you finally were able to get the surgery.
I was still on TV. Thankfully,
that's right. You were still on TV. You were just not in the ring.
Kip,
right?
Yes.
And the Butcher and the Blade, and Bunny. Of course, Bunny. I love Bunny.
Mm-hmm.
So thankfully, I still got to manage, and then I worked all the way up until my surgery date.
So it was technically a torn hip labrum, right?
Yeah, and then when they went in there was extra calcium on the outer part of my hip, so they just shaved it away.
Ugh. Oh God, I understand medically how that's done, but anytime I hear the word like shave in response to like bone or calcium, I'm just like, no. Oh, it's terrible.
I'm not really sure what they did when they went in there.
You just know you wake up and you're like, I'm feeling great.
You have metal there? I'm like, I don't know, maybe like Kevlar. I know that's what they used for Simon's shoulder. Oh, real names.
Kip's shoulder.
Real names.
You're right.
Oh, he's going to be real upset with that one. Kip.
Shh, we won't tell him. We won't tell him. It'll be our secret. So you spent 12 months rehabbing, and then you have the surgery. And then how long was the recovery post-surgery?
I think it was, so I had it in October.
Right.
And then, oh my gosh, they make you start PT so soon.
Really?
But I think they do the same with your knee. They want you to start moving it right away. So I think I started PT like a week and a half later.
Damn. Yeah,
But
I think I remember after like Chris Statlander's like second knee injury, like she had her surgery on like a Friday, and then that Wednesday she was like in the gym at work, like doing some like really basic like band stuff, and I'm like, what? How is this? But I think it's a matter of they just don't want you like sitting and creating a bunch of scar tissue.
exactly. Hmm.
Yeah, that's wild. So you had the surgery. Did you have any setbacks during recovery, or was it more of like a I just want to get back to it and I'm going to do
Oh,
whatever?
I mean, I did everything that they told me to do. I was like, I need to be back in the ring as soon as possible.
And then we saw you officially return on the October 8th edition of Dynamite, if I remember correctly, because it was in a match that wasn't originally supposed to happen. It was the four-way that we had, because it was originally announced as Britt versus Willow Nightingale that night, and then it ended up becoming the four-way match.
Right.
And becoming
that.
the four-way match. We always knew where you were going to come back, that it was for Jamie Hayter. It was just a matter of when that was going to take place. And then
When
once,
and how.
yeah, and then once Jamie became a part of this match, all of a sudden now, like that day, a lot changed in that process. You were suddenly back to being a part of TV. How did that talk a little bit about that day and leading up to getting back on television?
I feel like I had such an easy thing to do that day, and I had never been more nervous to go out. I think now, before, I would just be like, meh, whatever, I'm going to go out there and just wrestle and do what I got to do. Now I'm like, my heart is pounding. I just feel like I have so much to prove now because I've been off for so long, and I don't want anyone to like, forget who I was. And then now I'm better. I think I'm way, way better than from when I left. But, nerve-wracking. And
Oh yeah.
heart every time. My heart's pounding every time.
I like wasn't even a part of that match, and I felt the stress of that day because I think that was like one of those.
That was a stressful day.
So stressful. So like Will doesn't know this, but like the makeup room is like immediately like high intensity as soon as it's like, oh yeah, we need these like 4 women done all at once at the same time, and they need to be done now because we have to film pre-tapes to explain that like this match that was a singles is now a 4-way and blah blah blah. And it's just like
I can imagine, the stress of suddenly adding. You guys knew that you were going to have to take care of at least 2 people.
we got
for
an
the
order
night,
of
and
the
then all of a
day,
sudden,
we got a whole priority set up, and then you just come in here and you fuck it all up.
But yeah, and then of course it ended up adding 3 names to it because obviously we added Penelope Ford to it, and in that process again that added you back to TV, and again we kind of got a little bit of a new introduction to you because I think for a long time on TV you have been tied to. You've been tied to Kip Sabian on TV. You were also tied to Bunny. You were tied to a lot of that act. But in this reintroduction for you, it's just Penelope Ford. And this is who you are to our TV audience.
I also feel like I had a string of bad luck even prior to then.
Really?
That kept me like off of TV of times. And then I felt like I had my miscarriage in 2022, and then I had to have surgery because I had a fibroid the size of a cantaloupe. But so I was out for that. And then when I came back, I think Bunny got injured. And then as soon as she came back, I had gotten injured again. And then my hip, and then it was just like back and forth.
There was like something in the water.
Yeah.
It was real bad. Well, I'm happy that like I'm gonna find some knock on wood that like everything's okay now, that you've passed this stream of bad luck.
I'm stronger than before. I feel like
Totally.
I'm just totally in a mentally and physically in a way better spot than I've ever been.
How do you think you got to that place? Because like the mental, like being away from TV and having this injury and not being able to do the thing that you love is, I know, mentally taxing on a lot of people. People who have been injured and have come back from injury have always said that. So why do you think it is that you've come back sort of a stronger person? Because I absolutely agree with you. It's it's evident just being around you that like you are different and you are, but like in all of the positive ways.
I'm just really determined in myself to be the best.
So simple,
And,
so easy.
just manifesting and actually betting on yourself. And I'm not like worried about being a twig, like like super skinny anymore. Like, like I'm like, I want to be strong.
Hell yeah.
I want to like lift people. I don't want people to think I'm just a rag doll. Like I'm small. You could just throw me around. I'm not that.
Well, and on top of that, the more muscle you have, the more like less susceptible you are to injury and whatnot, because you've got more cushion.
Exactly. I think that's probably another reason. I was just so small.
That's great, and I'm loving this conversation, and we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about a whole lot more of Penelope Ford's career and all that and much more when AEW Unrestricted continues. Unrestricted. AEW Unrestricted, it's Aubrey and Will, and we're talking with Penelope Ford. Penelope, one of the things that is intriguing about your journey to professional wrestling is the fact that you weren't a wrestling fan at all. You didn't get into this. A lot of people, it was their dream to become a professional wrestler. They watched it as a kid. They envisioned themselves being in this. And, that their journey to getting here usually involved a lot of chasing it. But that's not what happened for you.
Not at all. Not at all. I had zero idea that wrestling was even a thing.
Oh, wow.
My friend was obsessed with the Total Divas and anything wrestling. And we worked together, and our manager overheard her talking. And she's like, my sister, her boyfriend is an independent wrestler. And got her to like meet him, and she went to some of his shows, I think. And then one day she was like, do you want to go to a show with me? I was like, okay. I don't like, what do you wear to this? And what am I to expect? So like, I knew who like The Rock was.
Everyone did.
And like Hulk Hogan. Because I always thought growing up, like my dad looked like him, but he also had a weird movie, and I remember seeing it at a friend's house. Anyway, that's sort of the gist of what I thought I was going to go and see. But she took me to a deathmatch wrestling show.
Oh.
So I don't know if we want to include where it was. It was CCW.
Oh, go right ahead.
There you go.
Okay, we'll cut that part out. Me confirming if it's okay. It was Tangled Web, I think 14. So people were like going through barbed wire. There's blood everywhere. I'm like, this is so fucking cool. And then I saw AR Fox, and he was doing all these flips and stuff. And I was like, oh, I could do this. And then we leave, and I completely forget about wrestling after that. And then she's like, do you want to do the tryout with me? Because I don't want to do it alone. And then 800 squats later,
yeah,
I was like, well, there's no way that I'm not gonna go and see what this is like. And then I got in the ring, and I loved it. I was like, this is a way to release my anger, because I was an angry person, maybe sometimes still very much so an angry human. And I quit cheerleading or wrestling. And I kind of kept it. I was like, oh, it's a hobby. This is so fun. And then it just turned into a passion. And then I did All In.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I had a really good reaction with that, with Hangman and Joey Janela. And I mean, very thankful for that moment, especially because, they really let me shine in that match.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, I feel like, changed my perspective even more of how I felt about wrestling. And then AEW was a thing, and I was like, I don't want to pass up on that.
Hell yeah.
And here I am.
So it's funny hearing all of that. Like, one, I can't imagine, like, if I had seen deathmatch wrestling as my introduction to wrestling, I don't think I'd be here. So I think it's funny. Well, I also don't like blood and violence and all of that stuff. So I'm just like,
I do.
like, yeah,
it
you
really
very
takes
much
a
do.
special kind of person
I
to
love
see
it.
that and go, this is where I see my career going. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Well, so the school that I trained at was CZW.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all I really took from wrestling, was that it's like pretty much deathmatch wrestling.
It's violent. It's
And
violence.
I did I feel like I did some pretty cool stuff back in the day. Barbed wire, some skewers, going through glass.
Well, and it's interesting because that was your foundation in professional wrestling. That almost right off the bat gave you a very unique identity in professional wrestling, because all of a sudden people are like, oh, this beautiful Penelope Ford, but I mean, she also will take literally anything. And I think that it changed the identity of, I think it almost added and opened doors for what women can do in professional wrestling and AEW, because you've gotten to be a part of some of the more violent matches in AEW, and to know that that's foundationally where you got here, I think is a really, really cool thing.
Oh, thank you. I think it's pretty cool as well. It's so weird to think back to, like, because I feel like I don't really think about it that often, but it's like I would jump off of things like with no fear. I was just like, yeah, I'll jump off a ladder, like onto people inside the ring to the outside, or like I jumped off a balcony once, and I mean, I don't even know what's worse. Is like, I don't know if skewers or barbed wire is worse.
Oh, I think it's how you take it, because skewers are always sort of like the one and done, but barbed wire,
It's not
like,
really one and done.
this
They're
is true. It's more like
combos,
300
yeah.
and yeah, okay.
It's
Well,
like ding, ding, ding. Yep.
yeah, no. Okay. So the thing I find hilarious about this is, like, your introduction to wrestling, you had never really heard it, seen it, whatever, and then eventually you end up being a part of, like, my favorite wrestling wedding on TV ever. So, like, what was it like to sort of plan a wedding with your actual real husband on television? Like how was that day, I guess?
So the idea was brought to us, and then I feel like we really didn't have much time to plan. The only thing that we wanted to make sure that was done, and this was very much so on like Kip's side of things, superstition. I understand. I completely agree. So, we had to get married prior.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend that got me into wrestling, her dad is a judge. So we went to the courthouse. What was it? It was on the 1st of February. So I think it was 2 days prior to Dynamite. So we got married.
Yeah, I love Will's expression. Like, I knew this.
So again, I wasn't in AEW at the time. I was just watching. But 2 days prior.
Mm-hmm.
And, yep. And I was like, oh, I really wanted to get married on 4/4 because that's when we met each other. Mm-hmm. When we got engaged. And then I wanted, that date. But then her dad was like, oh, 2/1/2/1 is a great day to get married. That day, well, I should say the night before, it started to snow really badly. And he's like, do you want to, change the date? I went, nope. You made it a point that 2/1/2/1 was a good date. It was 2 feet of snow. And we had to drive to the courthouse, which was like 15 minutes down the road. And A White Wedding is our theme song.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah.
White Wedding. Yeah.
Oh, very white wedding.
Yeah.
Extremely white. Oh my, 15 inches of white everywhere. Oh my God. That's
But
insane.
also, I had to buy a wedding dress. So I bought a real wedding dress that I still have yet to wear. Because I was like, what am I going to wear? I need something. So I bought a dress. I mean, I love it. And then I had also contacted Sandra and was like, can you make me a wedding dress? And I drew it out and she made it come to life. And I wore that over the dress that I had bought at the store.
I think my favorite part about that dress is that Sandra, because she's as good as she is, basically made like the skirt part detachable. And it was like a one piece so that you could wrestle in it if you wanted to.
It was an idea.
Just keeping the option alive. Like,
Yeah, I thought about, being the crazy bride after getting your face smashed into a cake, like everything just going to shit. But then I was like, I feel like that's been done. I don't know. I just didn't go with it. I really liked it too. I didn't want to ruin it.
right.
Which that day in Jacksonville that we filmed that cake, because it's like so open, it was so cold. And I was expecting my cake to be soft. That shit was hard as a rock.
Oh, yeah.
And my face hit it.
You're very unlucky when it comes to your face hitting hard objects on television.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. Like, I just completely forgot about it until you said that. And I was like, oh, and then there's the arcade machine with Chris Statlander.
Oh, yeah.
We're like, I
Arcade
remember,
Anarchy. Let's go.
right? And I remember looking at this plexiglass after, and there's like a face in makeup drawn on the glass. So it's like lips and then
It's
like
the
concealer.
perfect imprint of a face.
It was beautiful. It would like could not have been more perfect. It was so great. And I'm sorry. I hope it didn't hurt too bad, but it was such a wonderful moment.
I mean, I would say that's up there as like one of my favorite moments.
That's like an all-timer Dynamite ending to
Dude.
have. Whereas my mind playing as like seeing the entire best friends like all gathered, and yeah, the moment of Chris Statlander doing the return inside the arcade, or it's that what was it, claw machine?
It was a claw machine.
Yeah, the claw machine. Yes, I do remember that vividly, and yeah, you right in the face. It looked amazing. I can't imagine how it felt.
Yeah, we could have.
It always gets brought up every few months. Someone will like tag me in it. And I'm like, thanks for the reminder.
Hey, you never know in wrestling what's going to be the thing that stands out that in people's minds. And like, that's one of the things I love about you is that you're just so willing to commit to a moment. And it's just a matter of like, okay, we don't necessarily know what's happening here, but like, I know when you're there, oh, Penelope's here. It's going to go freaking great. Like, hands down. It's a given. It's going to be awesome. And this interview has been awesome so far. We've got a quick break, and then we'll come back, and we're going to talk about some matches with the help of Upper Deck. So stay tuned. AEW Unrestricted. We have Aubrey and Will talking to the one and only Penelope Ford. She's amazing. She's wonderful. She's overcome so much in like the last few years, being like with AEW since day one, overcoming injury, overcoming so many things in her personal life. We've seen her married on TV. We now know she was married 2 days before. Like, it's just, you have such an incredible story and it's so awesome. And I love every time I get to see you at work because it just brightens my face. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, no, genuinely one of my favorite people. And
Absolutely.
I say this knowing that, pulling back the curtain a little bit, I'm currently sitting here in like immense back pain because I screwed up my back moving a microwave. And I was thinking the last time I hurt my back,
it's the most old person thing you've ever said.
I know. The last time I hurt my back, and Penelope knows where I'm going with the story, was on my way to a collision. I had like really messed up my back and I needed to go see our team. But I rode in an Uber with Kip and Penelope on the way to the building, and the Uber got a freaking flat on the side of the
It was your Uber ride,
Yeah,
though.
it was mine. Yeah.
You let us come with you.
Right.
So thankfully,
And my back's messed up, and I'm like, oh my God, the driver's like can't change a tire, but luckily Kip was here. And if you guys hadn't been there, we would have been screwed.
Well, you would have been calling another Uber.
Oh yeah, I would have called another Uber. I would have been like, screw this up.
Highway.
But we're on the side of the highway. Who's gonna pick somebody up on the side of the highway? Like that
But
feels.
how close does she park on the side of the, like, on the line? I was like, I'm gonna film. I'm gonna stand so people know that there's a man changing a tire.
Mhm.
And if someone were to hit my husband, at least, I mean, like, they're gonna hit me too. Like, we're going
Go down together.
Yeah.
So, but
What a time.
yeah, I can't believe that happened.
So
Yes.
clearly you all survived that moment, thankfully.
Yes,
Yeah.
but he was literally laying down on the white line on the side of the highway. Yeah, it was terrifying. And then Will sitting in the car.
Yeah, just like I'm so messed up. Like my back, I couldn't move that day. I was so.
No, you couldn't.
I was so jacked that day, and
Conveniently.
so, yeah. So either way, we've got great AEW memories, and that's one of the ones. And being that my back not so messed up today, but it just reminded me. Oh yeah, there's that story. That's the only time it's ever happened to me in an Uber. But AEW Unrestricted, of course, sponsored by Upper Deck, and we've got some Upper Deck cards here that may trigger some memories that we wanted to talk about with
boy.
you.
Oh boy.
Aubrey, why don't you go first?
I'll go first. So here's one of my favorites. We mentioned that you were a day one AEW. We also have another day one AEW who's also one of my favorite people to work with in the ring.
Someone that was there too. Oh yes.
This is
I don't know if
Nyla
it was on the
Rose,
same day that I was there, but
right?
I thought you were gonna say Britt Baker.
Well, I don't know. We got a whole lot of cards here, but I know
Okay.
you've gotten a chance to wrestle with Nyla multiple times, both in singles, four ways, all sort of stuff.
Indies.
And on the indies, yeah. So, what's one of your favorite things about wrestling with Nyla?
Well, there's this one time. Okay, so just straight off the bat, Nyla's just hilarious.
Oh, I think
Funniest
everyone knows
person I
that.
know. Yeah.
Funniest person, yes, hands down.
And she's just so down to earth. Like, just being in a match with Nyla, you can be put at ease.
Mhm.
But this one time, it was Nyla, Bunny, and I tagging. And Bunny's like, gosh, how did it go? Oh my gosh, I can't remember. Never mind.
Oh,
I forget how it went, but it was like, tag. I think Bunny's like, tag me. And she's like, no, Nyla, oh God. It was like, tag me. She's like, no, I'm tagging P. But P and me, I don't know. You had to be there. Whatever. Wow, that story went to shit real quick. Okay. Nyla's great. I love her, and she's hilarious.
She's one of the people that I try to like pop in the ring all the time. So like we'll just be doing a match, whatever, and I'm trying to figure out ways that I can make her laugh as quickly as possible. And like she hates it. She's like, stop it. She's trying to be all mean and scary, and she's like trying also not to laugh hysterically. Like, oh my God, she's the best.
She really is.
Will, what do you got on your cards?
All right, so I wanted to talk about the fact that Daly's Place. A lot of the memories we've talked about with you involve Daly's Place, but in Daly's Place, speaking of Britt Baker, Britt got injured in Daly's Place very early on in the Daly's Place run, and that led to you having a pay-per-view match at Double or Nothing 2020 against Chris Statlander.
That one.
Wanted to talk, and you've had multiple matches with Chris Statlander, but I wanted to talk specifically about
On the indies too.
yeah. Let's talk about Chris Statlander.
Are we being for real or in gimmick.
It's unrestricted. Let's be for real.
Okay. So for real, definitely up there as like top favorite people to wrestle.
Oh yeah.
And her as a human being in general, like I love her so much.
Who doesn't?
And definitely one of the, like her and I are so weird around each other, and yes.
Oh my God.
We're just weird humans, and her and I just vibe so well in and out of the ring. And oh my gosh, she's just so strong. And, you know, like I used to do a lot of intergender wrestling. And with her, I just feel like there's just things that you could do with Statlander that you don't get the opportunity to do with many other people. Because she's strong. She's just so strong and she's so talented. I just love Stat.
So good.
Here I am putting her over.
Right.
Well, that specific match ended up leading to a few weeks later you having a match that really, I think for AEW fans, really put you on the map with them, and that would be Hikaru Shida.
There it is.
You went one-on-one with for the AEW Women's World Championship. Again, Daly's Place. Wanted to talk a little bit about that match and that experience.
I think someone was injured and I had to fill in for that match. I'm like, I fill in when they...
So,
You're dependable.
If I remember correctly,
I am very dependable.
Stat got injured right before then.
I think Britt was injured.
So Britt was injured and you filled in on the Stat match, and then there was and then Stat got injured right after that, and then you ended up Fyter Fest having the match with Shida.
I don't have a timeline in my head.
Daly's Place is all really just a blur that kind of existed, and then there was occasionally the fourth floor. Like,
yeah, interesting times at Daly's Place.
interesting.
Oh, this is, man, I'm just like, Sheeta's another person that's just one of my favorite people to wrestle. Her and I had an amazing match. I think that people need to talk more about it because it really, I think for like earlier days and like earlier days for in my career in AEW, I'm like, that was I thought a great match. And she's talented in the ring, and I don't know, she's just my favorite. And her and I actually always say how that's one of our favorite matches.
Yay!
Yeah, she has absolutely called that one of her favorites, and I think for a lot of people, I remember the reaction after that match was over was like, okay, I knew Penelope Ford can go, but all right, Penelope Ford can go. And I remembered like everybody coming out of that match feeling like, okay, this is somebody we want to see on our TV screens more. And so I really feel like for a lot of AEW fans, that match put you on the map.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I just love it when like a match goes well and then you have a really memorable experience with it, but then so does everyone else who is not involved. It's like the magic of wrestling, right? Like it all kind of like comes together and we all have this shared amazing memory of it. I've got another person on our women's roster that I wanted to ask you about. I have Anna Jay, who is absolutely incredible, and I know someone you've wrestled a handful of times. What can you tell us about Anna Jay?
A sweetheart. Someone had put it perfectly about Anna Jay is that God took his time making her.
Oh, yes.
Isn't that so? But I love Anna, and I think I was her first match in AEW.
Wow.
Back at Daly's Place.
Again, Daly's Place, man. Magic happens there.
Well, and you guys got to make some magic together at Daly's Place. If you think about the street fight with Anna and
My
Ty
favorite
versus
match. We
So
got
good.
to do, yep. And I think Anna Jay's everyone's just so talented. But Anna Jay, like this, like towards the end of last year, so weird to say because we're just in the beginning of this year. Just a whole nother level. She's, yeah. And I can't wait to, wrestle her more.
I want to talk a little bit more about that specific street fight because, again, for a lot of people who kind of knew you from before, they kind of knew what to expect as far as the level of violence and what you're willing to endure. But a lot of people didn't, right? And so this was one of those opportunities to get to show essentially the side of, and bringing it back full circle, the side of Penelope Ford that got you into professional wrestling in the first place.
I want to do more of that stuff.
Hey, Will,
Give
you
me
know
more
a guy.
of these matches. I really wanted to, we can leave this in or take it out, but I really wanted to use skewers in that match. And they were like, okay. And then as soon as it got closer, they were like, that might be too violent.
Baby steps.
I think, yeah. With the baby steps,
Mm-hmm.
they've now accepted them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I remember early on, it was kind of like, well, let's see how it goes. And now it's just like, you got Chris and Willow using friggin' light tubes now. Like,
Yeah.
oh, we've grown. So see, look, you're making waves and punching holes in ceilings for the women on our roster.
But I think Bunny and I, we've done stuff like that prior.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was Anna and Ty that had never done anything like that. So I felt it was a little bit of a stressful day, but it was a good day.
Hell yeah.
There's also this one part of that match that haunts me, which it's no big deal because it still happened, but and it was effective. Okay. But my moonsault off the top rope, the table wasn't close enough. And I was like, there's no way that my little body is going to break that table. So we had discussed, doing double knees through it. But then when I got up there, mid-flight, I went, I won't make it if I do the double knees. So I half knee straight. It was the ugliest moonsault I've ever done in my whole career. I am so upset about it. But, I hit her, so it doesn't matter.
Hey, it's effective, just as you said, 100%.
But the table did not break.
Which is arguably worse. Like, anytime a table doesn't break and then people are like, oh, a table didn't break, blah, blah, and they're talking shit. I'm like, no, that's so much worse.
14 pounds. There's no way that it was going to break.
It's like just hitting the flat surface that doesn't actually give way. Like, that's terrible. That makes you more of a badass. But the table didn't even break. Oh my God. So good. So good. This whole chat has been great. I remember when I texted you and I'm just like, how have we not had Penelope on the podcast yet? We need to fix that. So thank you for being here today and making the time. And screw Kip for delaying us, because I know it was his fault. So we'll just put that on record.
No, it wasn't. I don't have Chrome on my MacBook. He got me this MacBook and I'm a noob at it and I don't know what I'm doing.
It's command is like the Windows key. That's all you really need to know. That's the big difference.
Well, you know what? He did take my camera for my computer, so that's why I'm not on my computer.
There you go. So it is his fault. I just really wanted to get a roundabout way to make sure that we could blame Kip for this. Anyway. Well, thank you for joining us today. This was wonderful. You can follow Penelope on Instagram, _Penelope Ford. AEW Unrestricted, reminder, is sponsored by Upper Deck. Collect your favorite wrestlers 2024 Upper Deck AEW. Start your trading card collection today with autographed memorabilia, premium tech inserts. Visit upperdeck.com to learn more. You can listen to and follow this podcast, AEW Unrestricted. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on all the fun little podcast apps, wherever you want to listen. You can check out video episodes on our YouTube channel at AEW Unrestricted. Hit the subscribe button, boop, 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 so you never miss an episode. And are you an AEW insider? I am. You could get free early access to ticket pre-sales, special merchandise, just straight to your inbox. Sign up today. Visit AEWTix.com. And don't forget, Dynamite on TBS and streaming on Max, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. AEW Collision live every Saturday on TNT, also streaming on Max. ROH streams every Thursday on Honor Club. I am Aubrey Edwards with Will Washington and our guest Penelope Ford. Thank you so much for listening to AEW Unrestricted.
Bye.
Bye.